Hi everybody, welcome and thank you for joining me again. Okay, so we have to do this. So what was my motive behind that long video I made with regards to Diana's estate, etc.? I had a feeling that you guys would be confused. I sort of expected half of the comments, but let me explain, because that was just an introduction to things which are not exactly as they seem, no matter what you believe. Whether you believe that Meghan is wearing a replica of Diana's watch or a replica of her jewelry, or whether you believe it's real, or it does really not matter. Because at the end of the day, when you add it all up, it is very clear that things are not as they seem. So let's get into it. Now, like I said, first and foremost, the video was made to remind you that all was not well. All was not on the up and up or the straight and narrow, while Harry and Meghan were still part of the royal family, and certainly not after they left. So many of you will remember that there was indeed an investigation by the Charity Commission after the split of Harry and Meghan from the Royal Foundation, and that there was a discrepancy of about £3 million, if I remember correctly. Remember, it was found that the Royal Foundation, or then William at the time, did nothing wrong, and that he paid Harry's portion out in good faith. It was then also found that some of the money went to Travelist, which of course is not a charity, and although it is said to be a non-profit, it is still, to date, and I went and checked, not registered as such. It is still a limited company. And as you know, charity is not supposed to give money to a business. But the investigation stopped at the Royal Foundation's door, found that the Royal Foundation and William did nothing wrong, and that was that. It did not go any further. So point number one I wanted to make: how embarrassed do you think William was to be investigated by the Charity Commission? And all because little bro is a little snot who thinks he does not have to abide by laws and rules. And why did the Charity Commission stop their investigation right there? Because they knew what they were going to find. And what were they going to do when they found what they found? Charge or fine the king's son? Now, other people who misappropriated charity funds and funneled it to a business or a startup actually paid huge fines and or other consequences. But Harry got away with it. And still, at the very end of the day, after all was said and done, and the money found that went to Travelers, there were still a few pounds missing or short. But never ever did anyone speak of it ever again. All assumed it went to the Sussex Foundation and to Travelers, at least the public. I'm not talking about the investigators. They likely knew differently, but they left it at what it was. Now, I'm asking you, who else did exactly what Harry did? Or more or less, almost nearly the same? Okay, I will tell you. In 2007, the then Prince Charles led a £45 million rescue deal to save Dumfries House. He borrowed about 20 to 22 million, and he used his charity as guarantee. Now, do you think that was legal? Strictly speaking, my dears, of course not. The use of charity borrowing and courting wealthy donors to pay off the loan and support the project actually led to public scrutiny and obviously charity and fundraising controversy. But after a couple of articles in The Guardian and a bit of moaning and gossip, did anything happen? No. Instead, many came with 101 excuses for Charles. Oh, it will benefit the community, blah, 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 bloody blah. Well, you see, actually, whether it will or it won't was not the point, because Charles is Charles and not Robin Hood. He wasn't then, and he isn't now. Again, like with his son, rules for thee, but not for me. Then we spoke about Diana's personal possessions and the fact that it is becoming less and less, disappearing from view and so on. Now here is the nasty truth. These items were personal possessions, and when William and Harry inherited it, it became their personal and private property. So if, say, Harry sold Diana's gold clasp bracelet, then indeed he was well within his legal right to do so, and legally nothing can or will happen to him. It is his property. But let's say the bracelet was not his to keep. Say it was one of the items William actually chose, and it was just lent to them, and they lost it, in inverted commas, but actually truthfully sold it, then it would be theft. But of course we know no such thing for a fact, only gossip, according to which Meghan did indeed leave for the United States with some borrowed jewelry in her bags. Allegedly, there were threats, and they did return some of the items. And apparently, allegedly, the items were not just jewelry. They were apparently, allegedly, other things as well. Now, who else do you think is also not too honest or too clear about jewelry and other expensive, valuable items? Well, none other than billionaire King Charles. In 2003, the rules for royal gift giving was actually adapted and changed, and according to those rules, the royal family is required to add official gifts to the royal collection to be preserved for the nation rather than keeping it as personal property. But, my dear friends, has it happened the way it should? No. Following a 2019 report, Buckingham Palace stopped publishing its promised annual register of official gifts for a period of 4 years, citing delays caused by COVID, the transition of power and the planning of the coronation, etc. Investigations, however, highlighted a culture of concealment, noting that while a public gift list was eventually revived, several historically controversial and lavish gifts, such as high-value jewelry gifted by foreign dignitaries, consistently failed to appear in the registry. Currently, there are jewelry worth about £80 million unaccounted for in the official national collection. An example of such items are 3 highly valuable jewelry sets given to Camilla by the Saudi royal family during official trips in 2006 and 2013. So, what are we supposed to call this? Now, I personally, you don't have to, I call it thieving, stealing from the nation. And there's absolutely no reason to do so. The royals own millions of pounds of jewelry in their private capacity. Inherited pieces, gifts from spouses, from family, from friends, literally millions of pounds worth of jewelry in their own private collection. Now, these pieces being archived are obviously also then protected, and they are not really lost to the senior royals. No, not at all. The senior royals can borrow practically almost any piece from the royal vault. So the fact that some gifts are concealed and kept in private safes is just pure, unadulterated greed. But again, most people with any kind of interest in the royal family know about this. But is anything done about it? No. Again, one rule for thee and another for me. And therefore, if it transpires that Harry had sold his darling mamma's jewelry, it will not be a surprise to me. The royals, well, most of them, have little to no sentiment, and they certainly do not care about the country or its citizens, and they will take and do what they want, with little regard for each other, never mind for us. And that, in a way, was the point of the video. You know, an introduction to actually come to a point where I can almost guarantee you there is much more concealed and kept secret when it comes to the rift between William and Charles and William and Harry. William apparently feels the embarrassment caused by Charles and Harry acutely, I was told. That is also why he separated his office, his public relations, his media group, and his legal advisors 100% completely and fully from his father's and Buckingham Palace. Which is fine and understandable, but what about the British people? Don't they deserve justice and truth? I'm telling you guys, give Republic a more dynamic leader than Graham Smith, and the royal family or Charles or both will soon be gone. I know William is busy giving land and properties back and trying to plough money back into Cornwall. But will he be able to fix it all? Or has he also grown up in an environment where he feels just a slight bit entitled as well? Now, only time will tell, but in the meantime, take everything I told you in this and then that previous video to heart before you blame William for anything or for being stubborn about Harry or whatever. Harry, Meghan, and Charles actually deserve legal charges lodged against them, not forgiveness. And that is why Charles will never abdicate in favor of William, because as long as he is king and the courts and the legal system are operating in his name, nothing can happen to him. Nothing. Okay, guys and girls, that is it for now. I shall see you again tomorrow. Until then, please take good care of yourselves, stay vigilant, and stay safe. Bye.